We have a new Spongebob movie coming out, so I guess it only makes sense to finally talk about an episode. And despite being a really easy target, I feel I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this one. Do I really need to tell you about Spongebob Squarepants? The show has been going on since 1999. That is about 16 years, most of my lifetime. For those who don't know, it follows a sea sponge who lives in the town of Bikini Bottom under the sea, where he spends most of his time working as a fry cook at the Krusty Krab, hanging out with his best friend Patrick, or annoying his neighbor Squidward, who's an octopus despite having only 6 legs and having squid in his name. Figure that one out. I absolutely love the first 3 seasons of this show and even like season 4. However, around halfway through season 5, I stopped watching from a lack of interest. But from what I've been told, there have been quite a few bad episodes made after season 4, some of which I have actually seen. Fuck you. So I could pretty much pick any of them. But no, after all, that's what Mr. Enter and Pie Guy rules are for. Instead, we're going to be looking at an episode from season 3 that I personally was never a fan of. The Great Snail Race. The episode starts with SpongeBob waking up Gary with a trumpet and saying good morning to everyone. We then get a pretty funny joke about how much the world wants nothing to do with SpongeBob, which I could make a joke here, but I really don't want to piss off any more people than I already have. A male fish brings a cage to Squidward's house and asks him to sign for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tennis Balls.
That's tentacles.
I hope you enjoyed that joke because that's a running gag. It turns out the package was a new pet snail named Snelly, and already I have a problem with this. Now, I know SpongeBob isn't exactly known for its continuity, but after the events of I Was a Teenage Gary, why would Squidward ever want a snail? Hell, in that episode he didn't even know how to take care of one. But again, that's nitpicking. That isn't nearly this episode's main problem. Squidward tells SpongeBob and Patrick that Snelly is a purebred and will be competing in the Bikini Bottom snail race.
Property of Squidward. Tentacles.
I'm sorry, is tentacles really that hard a word to pronounce? SpongeBob decides to enter Gary in the race, and Patrick gets the idea to get his own snail and enter as well. And this is where the episode starts to lose me. SpongeBob becomes a coach to Gary, and he begins yelling at him and trying to get him to eat nails. And this is where we get running gag number 2. Patrick gets a snail that is actually a rock. SpongeBob tells him that it's a rock, and he doesn't comprehend the meaning of what he says. Gary doesn't want to train and obviously has no interest in the race. This will become a problem later. Squidward taunts him, and we do get a funny joke here, but that's ruined when we see SpongeBob basically putting Gary through a training so rough that Sergeant Hartman would be telling him to scale it back. And may I remind you that Gary does not care about the race.
Stroke! Come on, Gary, we're gonna be late for the big race!
The snail race arrives, and there's another funny moment involving the announcer, but then we get a really awkward joke involving the first ever winner of the snail race named Lightning. That's only redeeming factor is that it gave me a great opening to my Equestria Games defense. I don't want to watch an old snail obviously tired and sad. It reminds me that eventually all the pets you love will grow old and die. This episode is fucking depressing. It's made even worse when you see SpongeBob's attitude. Come on, SpongeBob is such a happy character, it takes a lot to piss him off. And what pissed him off here? Squidward calling Gary a mutt. No, that's not good enough, especially when the whole reason SpongeBob is treating Gary so harshly is because he wanted to prove that Gary wasn't pathetic. If he's doing this out of love for Gary, then he wouldn't be doing this to Gary at all. Especially since Gary doesn't care about the race. He doesn't care about winning. It's not a competition to him. He just wants to be home and watch TV. Maybe this is trying to be a commentary on how real pet owners will put their pets through these types of tasks. But at least when people put their dog in races, they are built for speed. Who the hell wants to go see a snail race? It doesn't even seem like there are that many contestants. In fact, there's only 3. Squidward, who got his snail yesterday, SpongeBob, who's only there because Squidward pissed him off, and Patrick, whose snail is a rock. So if SpongeBob hadn't gotten angry, you know, like he normally would, then this would only be 1 contestant in this race. I wouldn't mind that much, except based on the crowd, this race is the Bikini Bottom version of the Olympics.
Boy, the competition's getting tough.
No, it isn't! Anyway, the race starts and Snelly gets a huge lead as Gary and Rocky, the Rock, just sit there. SpongeBob continues to yell at Gary, and again, I would like to remind you that Gary doesn't care about the race. You see, if Gary wanted to win and SpongeBob was only trying to help, maybe this would be a little more excusable. Eventually he does head out, SpongeBob still yelling at him, but then this happens.
Oh! Make that 2, folks! Plus a blown head gasket! He's heading straight
Oh, come on, isn't that what the tires were for? How is this funny? This is treated like a real car crash. And I don't know about you, but I don't typically find those things humorous. Somehow Gary gets back onto the track and SpongeBob learns that he's been a big jerk. You think? But it's okay, Snelly turns back to comfort Gary, losing her chance to win. And since we never see her again, I'm assuming Squidward sent her back where she most likely spent the rest of her life alone due to the fact that no one would want a snail that gives up a race for another snail she barely knows. But wait, if these two were disqualified, then who won?
And the winner is Rocky!
What? How the hell does that— oh, screw it, I don't care. I guess this is supposed to show that you should treat your pet well, but we never saw Squidward mistreat Snelly, and the only reason Patrick even got Rocky was so he could win the race too. So yeah, that moral doesn't work.
I can't believe it. My purebred, which cost me $1,700, lost to a rock.
Okay, that was pretty good. And Patrick even gets the trophy engraved in Squidward's name. Can you guess the joke?
The first place snail racing cup presented to Squidward, Tortellini.
Well, I'll give the episode this. The joke wasn't funny, but at least it had a payoff.
That's for yesterday, Squarepants!
What? Oh right, there was this joke earlier where SpongeBob made a sexist comment and Sandy said she would kick his butt. Yeah, can't believe I forgot to mention that. So that was the Great Snail Race. It's not an awful episode, far from it. It has some funny moments, the pacing was pretty good, and even some of the concepts of the episode aren't that bad in theory. Really, it's only the second half that's incredibly mean-spirited. SpongeBob was way too tough for no good reason, Gary was tortured despite doing absolutely nothing wrong, and it has a few moments that are more depressing than funny, and really dragged out. It's mediocre at best, but it's far from the worst thing I've reviewed. Which means the next thing I have to review will probably give me a brain aneurysm. Oh, by the way, Viacom, no matter what you say, if you try and get this video taken down for copyright, you are in the wrong. This is under fair use. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.